Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a really great evening together. I'm Sara Gibson, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of 20 Degrees, and just as importantly, I'm also the co-chair of the Sitar Arts Center Leadership Council. Welcome to the Salon Dialogue series. In fact, this salon is the 7th in a series, this one being focused on NFTs. We started these salons in the before times when we could gather in person, and we did, and they were great. But what's amazing now is we can now have conversations, guests, and panelists from all over the world, which is what is happening tonight. We also have several past salon panelists in the audience, so you know who you are. Thank you so much for making time. So for those of you who know Sitar, and maybe those of you who don't, might be asking, why is Sitar asking questions about NFTs? What could a community arts center possibly be doing taking this question on at this time? Well, here's our first answer. Because Sitar has always cared about the future and how to make it more accessible, equitable, and creative. We see NFTs and cryptocurrency and the metaverse as unanswered possibilities. But what are they? Do they matter? How can they be used for good? How can we shape them so that any potential harms are reduced? What lessons can we draw from the earliest of days? And for those of us who remember the sound of the actual internet, what do we wish we knew at that time that we can pull forward here? So here we are today together. And the goal is that we can find some concrete ways to be engaged and curious and creative as a community so that we can participate in a way that allows artists and young people and the whole communities, especially those whose voices have been marginalized for too long, to have a place in this exciting new chapter. So before we dive in though, it's really a joy for me to turn the stage over to my dear friend and executive director of Sitar Arts Center, Maureen Dwyer. You're on mute.
There you go. Welcome everybody. I'm Maureen Dwyer, Executive Director of Sitar Arts Center, and I apologize for falling trap into the last 2 years mantra of you're on mute. I want to start with thanking Sara for your impactful leadership of Sitar, your volunteer work on the Leadership Council, and especially for envisioning tonight's salon discussion. You are always one step ahead. Welcome everybody from many quarters of the world. If you have not had the opportunity to be introduced to Sitar, I'll just share a little bit about who we are and our background. At Sitar, we deeply believe in the transformative power of the arts, and that shared artistic process and experience deepens our understanding of one another and the shared human experience. If you haven't been here, please visit soon. Sitar Arts Center is located in the vibrant and culturally diverse neighborhood of Adams Morgan in Washington, D.C. We first opened our doors in 2000 in the basement of a nearby subsidized housing building with the knowledge that every child is born with intrinsic gifts and abundant potential, and the conviction that every child should have equally abundant opportunity to transform their gifts into passion and into purpose. Our mission is to disrupt the barriers that create systemic gaps in opportunity for too many children. Financial barriers are particularly insidious to a young person's pathway to reaching their potential. So each semester, 80% of Sitar students come from households earning 60% or less of the area median income. In 2004, we moved into our current facility designed for high quality arts learning and skill training. Our young artists regularly refer to Sitar as their second home, where through the arts and deep care for one another, our community members create an environment of deep belonging. From early childhood through young adulthood, students at Sitar discover and follow their passions across artistic disciplines in the performing, the digital, and the visual arts. And today, Sitar is preparing for our next stage of development and growth. And we are asking ourselves, what happens if every child in Washington, D.C. could discover their creative selves and achieve their full potential? What if when each of these children become a young adult, they have a pathway to secure employment and upward mobility? And what will it take to get us there? We're coming up with solutions and responding, so I really hope you will stay tuned and come back as we share those solutions in the coming months. But right in this moment, as Sara shared, you may be wondering, why is Sitar Arts Center sourcing this conversation about Web 3.0, about NFTs? Well, yesterday I was in a conversation with a brilliant art therapist who said to me, arts are the cultural technology to create transformation. And that really resonated with me, how spot on that is. How through the arts, we carry our understanding of humanity, past, present, and future through the human expression. And right now, Web 3.0 is a revolution, and there can't be revolution without art. It's a revolution that's being led by large corporate interests and by artists. And it's Sitar's responsibility to make sure that we are looking around the corner with our emerging artists so we can help them be at the forefront of the new frontier. So before we transition to our discussion, we just want to give you a peek inside our doors to learn a little bit more about Sitar's mission. We know that artists are always ready for new ideas. And so we'll see our artists today and hear more from our wonderful panelists in just a couple minutes.
Oh, this is one of DC's hidden treasures, this Sitar Center.
We're proud of having Sitar in the community. It's great to have this little place where arts and creativity is really thriving.
When walking into the Sitar Arts Center, I definitely feel like it's a second home.
The whole idea of having a safe place for young people to express one's unique self and be accepted for who that self is the vision for Sitar. And then the programming goes all around that.
We deeply commit to each semester 80% of our students coming from low-income households. We have stuck to that model since day one. We also include families of other incomes because this is a diverse and vibrant community that has people from all socioeconomic levels. And we want our doors to be full of everyone interacting together, experiencing the same high quality, and really getting to know each other.
I realized very early on that these were arts and all these opportunities that we have were things that I really didn't have access to outside of Sitar.
Sitar felt like an oasis of people from all walks of life coming together to interact and be friends and be cordial in this sort of ocean of you stick with the people on your block.
Once I saw that this space opened, I could see how it could serve a greater base of children here. It was a really exciting time to see the development of the Sitar Center and how it had become this staple of the Adams Morgan community and really set the tone for arts education in a nonprofit after-school capacity.
At Sitar, I feel safe and welcomed because I don't get judged for what I do or what I look like.
At Sitar, I can make noise and turn it into music.
I believe that Sitar Arts Center is needed today, perhaps more than ever. The city is rapidly changing and it's really dividing based on socioeconomic levels as to who lives where. And at Sitar, we are a community that embraces those differences and helps our young people know that they belong in this city, they belong in this country, even if they're hearing from powerful places that they don't. And the arts are just such a wonderful way to express any pain that comes from feeling like you don't belong, and also developing your voice so that you can advocate for yourself and let the world know why you matter.
There we go. Every time I see the video, it gets me. Thank you again. Thank you, Maureen. What a treat to be here with you. And before we dive in, you actually get to start this time with us because you already helped us. We asked each of you to let us know what you already knew about NFTs. And I want to start by showing you the results of the poll. And we also have one more question to offer that to our tremendous tech team here at Sitar. So what we know is that many of us are new and interested. And thankfully, we have a few enthusiasts and also experts that will make our conversation go easier. Next up. And what we also see is that most of you don't feel like you're getting the information that you want to figure out how to even make sense of this moment and also to participate in it. So we'll aim to fix at least a little bit of that tonight. And the final slide. Why are you here? How can NFTs be used for good? Absolutely. Pros and cons. That'll come out. What is all of this? How to create, how to invest, and is this even relevant? So I think we will touch on all of those, but I hope that you also can see this as the beginning of a conversation. We also would like you to answer one question up top. And as we start, we've all been around, many of us have been around for technology and new moments. So do you think that this moment with Web 3.0 and NFTs specifically, is it the beginning of the internet or is it the beginning of the segue, which I was pretty convinced that we would be riding around on them by now, but it doesn't quite happen. So if you can weigh in on that, we can get a sense of what do people think the future is? Is it bright, unknown? Is it hype? It's a good starting place for us. And as you do that, as you take time, we're going to continue on. We'll pause when we get the results in. So what we do know is that whatever we think, big corporations, including the company formerly known as Facebook, feel so strongly that there is a play here that they actually went so far as to change their name to Meta, if some of you missed that in the news. We also know that major brands are investing in this technology to create new experiences for customers. We see artists and art houses auctioning off NFTs. We also know that sales are going through the roof. Just in the past week, art NFTs have generated over 27 million in sales. Something is happening. We don't know yet if it is ultimately good or bad, but what we are sure of is that when the community is present, it is more likely to reflect the needs and hopes that we all have. So what if NFTs are a way that we might pay artists differently so that it's actually sustainable? What if NFTs are a new type of technology that small businesses can deploy to their customers that really sets them apart? What if crypto and blockchain are two types of innovation that solve problems of security, even as they bring on new challenges? So my journey to this conversation began with a client who was looking into this technology. And in fact, my business partner was the first person I knew who ever donated cryptocurrency. And the more I dug in, the more I thought, is this a way for an outsider to really have a voice at the beginning of a new asset class? That doesn't happen every day. And the more I've talked to people and read, what makes me even more excited is that so much of what is happening in Web 3.0 and NFTs and crypto is a lot of what I love about Sitar. It's collaborative. The outsider is the insider. There's a sense that we can collaborate and create our way through to solutions. And I'm no techie, as you probably have seen, even as I bungled some of the stuff here already. Computers often break in my presence. And I'm not a young creative either. But I think that there's a place for all of us in this, as long as we show up humbly and with curiosity, and we assume that there is space for everyone, especially these questions that just might affect our children's futures. And so for me, I've learned a ton by listening to voices who are very different than me. And while I've not gotten around to that sourdough starter, as a little inspiration for those of you who may think I can't possibly get there, since COVID started, I've become a small investor. I have my first NFT from Crypto Coven, and I even have a new wallet with an Ethereum address, which felt like a very big technological leap. So we all can learn. But the question that we really came together to think about is, what are NFTs, and do they matter to a group of community builders, artists, and ordinary people? And here's how we're going to go about answering that question. We're going to take about 30 minutes to listen to our amazing panelists. I'm so excited for you to hear from all of them, who are going to explore this question from different perspectives. Then at the end, there'll be a Q&A. So if you have questions for the panelists, drop it in the Q&A. If you have a question along the way, we will also be working the chat. We want you to experience what Web 3.0 in this moment is like, which is a little chaotic and super collaborative and interesting, and all voices matter. So please use the chat liberally. Our goal is that you leave with some piece of why you came here for, some new information and a new way forward. So, do we have the results of our poll? Vaguely the segue, but the internet still might win the day. I think that feels like a perfect place to start. So thank you so much. We are going to start with Shahar Abrams. He is an investor, an educator, and a crypto professional. He's also a valued volunteer piano teacher at Sitar Arts Center. He is the founder of the crypto financial education organization, Road to Babylon, which builds upon his years of experience as a crypto investor and professional in the blockchain industry at IBM. Shahar, really great to have you with us. Will you give us a 101 on NFTs, and specifically art NFTs?
Hey, Sarah, sure. Thanks for the quick intro there. Happy to be here. So, you know, and NFT, right? Let's try to think of the best way to explain this, right? What the thing that everyone's excited about with Web 3.0, right, is this ability to now own content online yourself, right, without the need for a bank or some other, or a record label or Spotify, someone in between kind of mediating it and taking some rent, right, some money out of that pie. Right. So your ability to own your own content in Web3 is what has people really excited. And traditionally, what you could own was what we would call fungible tokens, pretty much. Right. So a Bitcoin, for instance, nobody cares if I have Bitcoin A or Bitcoin B. Right. They're both still Bitcoins. Doesn't matter which one I have or how much. Right. It's easy to trade them between each other. They're worth about the same. With a non-fungible token, right, an NFT, we can actually use these to represent unique assets in the real world or online, right? So if I have a non-fungible token, that means it cannot be subdivided, right? It cannot be, you know, transferred one-to-one. We care what NFT we have. You know, no NFT is the same. It's like a snowflake, right? And now what this allows, right, is for Web3 style ownership over assets that are unique. And that includes, but is not limited to, right, art. Anything that you might create as art. Now, I really see NFTs as, you know, the internet, I guess in the last question, it's a technology primitive that I think will underlie a whole bunch of innovation over the next few years. Now, what does that mean? It means that it's just a building block, right? So an NFT itself is not art, right? An NFT is simply a way we ascribe ownership to art in this Web3 digital world, right? But not only that, right? The NFT, because of the platforms these live on, right? NFTs can also be programmed, right? And what that allows them to be is more modular. For instance, you can create functionality for your NFT, say art that unlocks certain access to you as the artist. Maybe you're an artist and you have a special website for your most dedicated fans, and only a certain NFT that you might issue or sell or give away for free, right, allows you access to that site. And this can all be programmed and automated, right? And not only that, right, that's kind of a real world example, but imagine also in the digital world, if you're creating like a game, right, or if your art is part of a game or part of an online experience, how can you program, functionality into the NFT to unlock certain online experiences that are unique, right? Because they're unlocked by a certain NFT. So in that way, you can build community, right? You can build your fan base. You can interact directly with your fan base in a very dynamic way that you get to control. And these are just a few of the things we see artists and companies and all sorts of people starting to explore with NFTs. So hopefully that is a good sort of primer on. Okay, I'm getting the thumbs up. You're on mute, Sarah.
Absolutely. I think what is great, and for all of you who that made sense to, great, we're going to take it further. And for those of you where that sounded new, hang with it. We all have to hear things multiple times. And Shahar, thank you so much for that 101. That was a tough ask for 2.5 minutes to describe a brand new technology. Next, we're going to go to Pat. Pat Duffy created the Giving Block with co-founder Alex Wilson in 2018. And he's developing the leading solution for charities, universities, and other nonprofits to fundraise in crypto, with major programs that Save the Children and United Way worldwide. Over the last 4 years, the Giving Block has turned cryptocurrency into the fastest growing donation method. And it's Pat, well, I won't see. I'm excited. I'm certainly watching this. Pat, will you tell us about your journey here and how this new technology, specifically non-fungible tokens or NFTs, are helpful to nonprofits and creatives?
Yeah, absolutely. That stat always makes me laugh too, because all that means is crypto is still relatively small compared to obviously stocks and dollars and everything else. Fastest growing, which absolutely it's still pretty explosive. Yeah, NFTs have started playing a much larger role than we even anticipated as of last year. In the early going, it was pretty much 100% crypto focused. NFTs were a sort of fringe demographic in the crypto space. And then last year, as a platform, we did a little over $70 million in crypto donations. And we serve directly about 1,300 nonprofit organizations right now across faith, universities, donor advised fund platforms, charities, et cetera. NFT creators, especially in Q4, were at one point, even kind of in the October range, like the dominant donor demographic. So in almost every case, the NFT creators, the platforms where these NFTs are launched, the studios that are behind a lot of it, the traders who invest in them, they were donating cryptocurrency, but the wealth that they were generating and their interest area within this Web3 ecosystem was more NFT focused than crypto. They were donating proceeds from NFT auctions in particular. So yeah, we had tens of millions of dollars in crypto donations that were coming from that NFT community. And then as kind of a side component, we had nonprofits who were doing like NFT fundraisers. So the biggest one we did was with Sotheby's in Q4, which was a big NFT auction, generated a ton in donations. And then we every year run something called Crypto Giving Tuesday. It's the community campaign for crypto fundraising charities, which we launched off of the Giving Tuesday Foundation. And then this year, for the first time, we ran an NF Tuesday in partnership with Brave. For anyone who's on the line who uses that browser, they have their own token, and it's an interesting privacy-centric product. NF Tuesday was explosive as well. We had a ton of interesting groups from, Bored Ape Yacht Club and a lot of creators who ended up donating. So in short, I guess the most interesting takeaway here is the majority of donations are happening in crypto because of the ease of use. When it comes to making that transfer, it's a little less complicated to transfer ownership. Not that it's hard to send NFTs around, but in terms of claiming the value of the asset, and then if the charity doesn't immediately liquidate it, the value in terms of how it's recognized for the donor and the nonprofit is a bit more complicated. But yeah, so for this year, I think we're going to see a lot more nonprofits as an event alternative doing more things with NFTs, where they have auctions and galleries and partner with a lot of the folks who are working in this space, because it attracts a big crypto donor user base. And the visual component is obviously just a little bit more fun and exciting.
It's really exciting. And I think what we've heard so far is what NFTs are, that they're a piece that you own across the internet. And now what we're also seeing, Pat has brought to us, that the creative community and nonprofits community are generating a lot of interest, a lot of activity, and frankly, a lot of new revenue from this. So, and donations. It's really exciting. Thank you, Pat. We'll come back to you with questions. I'd now like to turn to Vicky Huang. Vicky is an investing correspondent at Business Insider, which I will say is my daughter's one of her favorite things, Business Insider. She's covering actionable trading strategies and market analysis across asset classes, including crypto. Prior to joining Business Insider, she covered US wealth and asset management industries for Advisor Hub, Citywire USA, and previous work for The Street, The Deal, and the Associated Press. Vicky, would you offer us your insights on the business implications of NFTs for corporations, small businesses, or entrepreneurs, whatever you feel best?
Of course. Thank you, Sarah. I'm really glad to hear that about your daughter. So yeah, NFTs, I feel like have really permeated almost every single industry. I started covering crypto a little bit in 2017 during the crypto bull market, when NFTs like the crypto kitties were already a thing. But I don't think it was really not until last year that NFTs sort of just exploded onto the scene. We have seen so many big corporations and businesses getting into the NFT space. For example, we have seen huge sportswear brands like Nike and Adidas acquiring NFT companies, dropping their own NFT collections. We have seen payment giant Visa buying a CryptoPunk NFT for $150,000. And of course, most recently, we heard that GameStop is reportedly starting an NFT division. And then Samsung, the electronics giant, is literally bringing NFT into our living room by incorporating NFT capability into their smart TVs. And even a place I used to work at, the Associated Press, is getting into the NFT space to sort of help photojournalism. So these are really examples of big corporations or institutions jumping on the NFT or Web3 bandwagon. But I think the most empowering aspect of NFTs is how small businesses, entrepreneurs, and individual artists can take advantage of this boom in NFTs to build their personal brand and showcase their work and product. So for example, ever since NFTs sort of exploded in popularity in spring of last year, we have seen a lot of young, very young and talented coders or artists launching their own NFT collections. For example, I remember there was a lot of coverage about this 12-year-old coder from the UK who launched a collection of NFTs. I think it's called the Weird Whales. And these NFTs sold out for six figures. I think it was more than $400,000 or something. And then more recently, one of my colleagues covered that a 14-year-old girl made over $1 million from selling 8,000 NFTs. Just thinking about, whereas before it was almost impossible for young people to sort of showcase their work to such a huge audience, right now the internet is sort of their platform and audience. So I think NFTs have huge business implications, and I'm excited to learn more as well.
Thank you, Vicky. It's really exciting as I think about one of the digital room with the 3D printers at Sitar. I think, could that be an NFT minting space at some point? We'll see. Next, I'd like to introduce Jenn, who is the head of communications at World of Women, handling their Twitter, Discord, which is like Slack or Twitter for those of you who don't know, for the space, Instagram, and other communications. World of Women is a sold out collection of 10,000 women NFTs. These are unique digital collectibles living on the Ethereum blockchain. The whole collection is the work of Huang, and it is in her signature hand-drawn colorful style using Procreate and Adobe Illustrator. It's really exciting. And Jenn is calling in from France for this. So she's our international panelist for today. And Jenn, thank you for staying up late. And would you share some stories of NFT success for artists, for women, some of the folks that Vicky was talking about, people who might not have access to this?
Hello. So yeah, I do have a lot of examples to give you of artists that succeeded. But first of all, I would just like to give you a little bit of storytelling of how World of Women was created, our understanding of success, and then some other examples. So try to be quick. So first of all, so around 5 months ago, when Huang, our artist, launched the project, the reason behind it was that she wanted to get herself a profile pic from another collection. She was already an artist in the NFT scene, so she was like seeing those collections often, but she didn't find anyone that represented her. So this is why she felt like the NFT collections were missing something, like more representation and inclusivity, and that's where the project idea came from. So this is how it got created. And for us, like, success was a lot about being able to do an impact in the NFT scene, which we were able by collaborating with lots of like diverse artists, minorities, and such, giving back to charities, having lots of women joining the space, and discovering NFTs thanks to World of Women. Yeah, thank you for the website. We also have lots of educational content, so if you're curious, just feel free to check our Notion page where we have lots of articles. And then I will give you quickly a few examples of projects and artists that succeeded and that are women-led mostly. So I'm just gonna read my notes because I wrote them down so that I'm sure I wouldn't be missing anyone. So community-wise, successful projects that are led by women. There is, for example, the Nyla collection, the Encryptas by Cypher Chick, Mona Lana by Lana Danina. I can write them down to you as well if you'd like. Sarah Bowman with Woman and Weapon, and other artists that does like more one-on-one arts. So this list was given to me by our artist itself. So we have Kira Bursky, Varvara Ali, Creative Palm, and Vintage Mozart, for example. So yeah, I really invite you to check them out as well, as they are all amazing artists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenn. Yeah, it's really, when you visit the page, if you haven't seen what an NFT is, it will look like a digital image, but remember, it's not a JPEG. It's a piece of art that is recorded, that you own it. There's all sorts of implications. Could use medical records one day. Oh, look, we're going to see some, hooray. Yeah, here are just some examples. And it is often what I'm learning is there are very different, distinct styles. And so I think even as we're pushing the limits of art, we're going to see more. Thank you, Jenn. It's really cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Our last speaker, and we'll do an overview, is Andres Marques-Lara. He is an expert at facilitation and collaboration, which is also awesome for this space, and really a social innovator. He's personally designed and facilitated over 150 workshops with more than 5,000 people all over the Americas, Europe, and Asia. He is founder and CEO of UFacilitate, previously founded Promethean Community LLC, and is faculty at Georgetown University's McCourt School of Public Policy, along with other impressive posts. He's also a dear friend and who is well into his journey as an NFT investor, and is frankly one of my favorite people to riff on with this topic. So you'll get a chance to experience why I turned to him as we were doing this. Andres, I invited you here to help us with the question: how can ordinary people who are new to this conversation begin to understand NFTs and their relevancy and really participate?
Sure. So thanks so much for having me here. When I teach leadership development at Georgetown, I talk about, you learn by doing as adults. You become a better leader by doing. And it's the same thing for NFTs or crypto. Like, you're going to learn by doing. And the thing is, it can be so overwhelming with so many. I think there are about 13,000 crypto projects. There are thousands of NFT projects as well. So where to begin? And honestly, I would just say is go to OpenSea, which is kind of the main marketplace for NFTs right now. There are a few other ones. I'll post them in the link, and just start browsing, start looking at, and start trying to identify what is it that you like. There was a question about, well, do people buy NFTs because they like them or to flip them and invest in them? And it's everything above. It depends on who you are and the thing is, you're going to discover that. So I think I've been in the crypto space now for 4 years. I started getting into NFTs last year, and you learn by doing. And there are some very basic things that you will need to engage in the space. You'll need to have some sort of way to get some money into the crypto space. You get a Coinbase or these other crypto to get dollars into cryptocurrency. You got to have a MetaMask wallet. Again, I'll put this in the link. And actually, all you have to do is I'm sure Shahar has some great educational videos on this. It's just hey, how to get started. And you just need a couple things to get you started. But then just start dabbling. The other thing I'll say is that it can be quite intimidating to be in this space by yourself. Going to these Discord channels where everybody's anonymous and just typing, or you feel like a noob, a new person starting out. And it's about community. So you find people that are, in this space, like Sarah and us and others that are interested in this, and just start learning together, share your insights, share your knowledge. To me, that's gonna not only make it more fun for you, but actually will make you probably a better investor, because at the end of the day, also, a lot of this is about the economic value that these NFTs can have. Now, be mindful, this is, in terms of investment, is probably the riskiest things you can do. And, don't put the house on any NFT, 99% of them will probably be worth zero, in the coming years. But as Shahar said, I really appreciate, this is a primitive technology that's going to be foundational for a lot of things that are going to happen in the world in the next, 5 to 10 years. But again, I was saying, in terms of first steps is, get a Coinbase wallet, put some money in there to get some Ethereum, go to OpenSea to just browse different collections that you might like, and then just go to some YouTube videos on how to do that. And you'll be scared. You're like, oh my God, it's been 10 minutes and what's happening? And that's just part of the process. And the more you do it, like everything else, the easier it'll become. So just, learn by doing, find community to support yourself in trying it out. And yeah, and again, I'll put in the link a couple of these very basic elements that you need to engage with Web 3.0, including a MetaMask wallet, something that's very important for you to have to engage in these different platforms. And as you learn more about it, you'll learn that NFTs, can be done in different chains, and right now, I would recommend also maybe starting out in chains that are not, the gas is going to cost you very much. So for you may have heard about, minting NFTs or buying NFTs. In addition to the price, you have to pay all these gas fees that can be $50 to $100 or whatever. There are other chains, which I'll also post in the chat, that have much cheaper gas fees that allow you to practice, if you will. So anyway, but it's all about learning and experimenting. I think that's a cool thing. We're in the beginning of this amazing stage for humanity as a whole. And we're in the ground floor. How cool is that? And do you want to stay on the sidelines and just watch people play, or do you want to get in here and play with us? I think that's kind of the main message I would want to share to this community. Just let's get messy. Let's learn how to do it, and start small. That's the best way to learn.
Andres, I really appreciate that perspective. And especially as we reflect how Sitar is, right? We forget sometimes as grownups how hard it is to learn and also how exciting it is to learn. So what an opportunity here to, new things like this don't come along all the time. You're lucky if you get one or two in your lifetime. Thank you. I am going to pause here, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn to questions. So if the panelists could come back on so we can see your glorious faces. And we have some questions that have come in. So we'll just start at the top. So we have one question is, will Sitar start using NFTs with student made art? That might be a Maureen Essence question, with the permission of the student. And, what is the possibilities there? Shahar, since you know our students so well, could you give us how you could imagine? We're not making any programming decisions, but we're just playing in this space. What would it look like? How could you imagine that happening at Sitar?
Absolutely. And it's actually, I'm also working with my high school alma mater on trying to get, because they're an arts school as well, trying to get them to adopt and teach about NFTs to the student population. And, I think it's really, really doable. Right now, NFT actually creating and launching NFT, dropping NFTs, right, requires a little bit of technical know-how, which, by the way, I'm happy to help you guys with in my network. I know a lot of people that do this. But those barriers are coming down, and they're coming down very rapidly. So I know, several projects that are working on user interfaces, right, that make it super, super easy to, take a piece of art that may be digital, or if it's not digital, to kind of upload it, and then, one click, mint it as an NFT, right, with no technical experience really needed. And then another couple clicks, you can deploy it onto a marketplace, if you want to, like OpenSea or something else. So I think it's going to get easier and easier. I think you could also, there are some platforms already that exist that, really don't require a lot of technical know-how in order to do it. So I think you could have, what I would like to see Sitar do, so I think that this would be cool, is, teach students how to create the NFTs themselves, right? So if a student wants their artwork to be an NFT, right, just empower them to do that themselves, right? And deploy it, mint it, or create a contract for other people to mint it. That's a little more complicated, but, these tools are out there. And I think that's, if we want to teach to what's coming, right, skate to where the puck's going, I think, it's going to get easier and easier to do that. So teaching them, I think, the fundamentals of how it works, and like Andres said, learn by doing is best way. I think it's very feasible.
Fantastic. Appreciate that answer. My next question, I'm going to go back to Jenn. You had mentioned how there are different ways to describe success for the artist. Can you talk about a few of those?
Sure. So, it can be a subjective question, but for me, when I was talking about it, it's more about people who either manage to sell their project or their art, or get more eyes on it, or having a strong community as well is a successful achievement. So such things are, in my opinion, signs of a successful artist of art collection. And then I think same things as in real life applies as well.
I think that I appreciate that this is another place for artists to do what we are doing in galleries and in studios everywhere. So I appreciate that connection. One question we got, and I think this is a good framing question. Pat, I'm going to kick this to you. What is Web 3.0 and how is it different from the other webs?
Yeah, we touched on it kind of earlier on, but it's this classic term that everyone uses now, decentralization, right? Like that's a big part of it. So generally speaking, the internet disintermediated what we needed physical things for at its origins. And pretty much what this is doing is, you can imagine, like, just take example by example, cryptocurrencies, for instance. Like if you wanted to transact with third parties, you need middlemen, right? So Web3 pretty much disintermediates the need for actual middlemen entities with code, So they call it trustless in cryptocurrency, which is actually a really bad term, I feel, which confuses people and thinks, it can't be trusted. But all that means is you are putting your faith in like a surefire algorithm versus individuals and whether or not they'll hold up their end of a bargain. So it's more like bulletproof trust based on an algorithm versus anything else. So for like dollars, for instance, when people are like, what is crypto backed by? We know the US dollar is backed by the US government. Like the basic thing you would tell someone, like a good Web3 example of this would be cryptocurrency uses blockchain, the underlying technology behind it. What that means is, in short, the larger the network grows, the more difficult it is to alter a transaction record, just because all of these different computers that are authorizing transactions need to be taken over simultaneously, or at least 51% of them. So as that scales up, pretty much the same computer network is authorizing these transactions. So if I want to send $1 from myself to someone anywhere else in the world, rather than you needing a US government to print dollars that are going to be involved in a system and then banks to, hold those dollars and authorize transactions, then like a legal framework involved. What happens is you just, based on the code that is written, can participate in a network without any third parties between yourself and another individual because the code exists. I say I'm sending $1, this computer's cracked that algorithm, and then that $1 verifiably exists in position B versus position A. So I mean, I'm sure other folks in the panel have a simpler way of putting it, but I'd say like the biggest part of what Web3 is disintermediation, the idea that you can have decentralized code that allows individuals to transact with one another as like a disintermediation of what otherwise required a company to step in between. Something like an Uber disintermediated the need for you to go one-to-one with a taxi. You have like a company that's in between those two things, but you still need a company, right? And individuals who are building and operating that company. I'd say like the core of Web3 is pretty much you can have that code, and that completely replaces the need.
Is it fair to say Web 1.0, we trusted governments and the military, Web 2.0, we trusted corporations, and Web 3, we're trusting algorithms and a community?
That's pretty.
That's the vision. Yeah, I don't know that we're there yet, but I think that's a good way of putting it. And just to double tap on something Pat said, I think you can think about it like how you would send a text message, right? Like the internet, Web 2, let's say, gave us the ability to send data, right, to people without permission, right? So if I had your phone number, the string of characters that represents your phone number, it doesn't matter what network I'm on, right? It doesn't matter where I am in the world. As long as I have that phone number and an internet connection, I can send you data, right? And nobody can really stop me, right? Now in Web3, right, we can do the same thing, but with actual value, right? So if I have your, say, wallet address, another string of characters, slightly longer than a phone number, if I have that and an internet connection, now I can send you not just data, but I can send you value. I can send you money, I can send you coins, I can send you art, NFTs, right? So that's kind of a big paradigm shift. And as Pat said, right, the point is it's permissionless and trustless, right? So you don't need to have, a bank account or be in a, government jurisdiction that it allows you to do this, right? You just need the internet connection and the destination address, and becomes person to person, right? Just like text messaging is.
It's awesome. I really appreciate that. And I think this is complicated stuff, right? And so I appreciate the translation. I want to talk a question that came in from a friend out there in the world. There is, at the start of this webinar, the promotional video for Sitar mentioned Sitar's commitment to embracing people of all socioeconomic status. And our, NFTs right now feel very expensive. We've thrown around some big numbers, but I think this is actually a really exciting question. So I might go to Jenn or Vicky even on this one. How do we make this accessible? How is it being made accessible? Maybe we can talk about drops and how I will tell you that my first NFT was given to me and it was free. So that was really exciting. So that's a part of this. But Jenn, Vicky, maybe talk about two ways we're seeing them so it's not just exclusive. Jenn, you want to start?
I'm trying to refine the question to be sure to answer it properly.
If you can address the ways NFTs are being distributed and shared in community that are not just at a very high price point.
Like the minting stage?
Yeah, or drops, if you can talk about what drops are. Especially something.
Drops are like NFTs that are being sent to your wallet address, your account. For example, because I saw someone was saying that they didn't really understand the value of NFTs, and there are many, like main one being like community, in my opinion, but like another one, for example, can be art drop. Sometimes you can be part of projects that will art drop you different art pieces just because you are a holder of the project. So it will be like a free NFT that comes to your wallet. So basically a free art piece.
Perfect.
Sarah, if I may also just like there are tons of NFTs that are under like $5. I mean, yeah, like the expensive ones, like the Bored Apes or whatever, the ones we have heard on, like, yeah, those are inaccessible for most people. But I think what I'm thinking about Sitar, and I'm just getting to know them thanks to Sarah on this panel, is like just having students have the experience of minting an NFT, you know, have the experience of having somebody buy their NFT, maybe your next fundraiser, and it's, you know, you have the students sell their NFTs or you give them the royalties, whatever it is. Like that experience doesn't have to be inaccessible. I mean, if you go to OpenSea right now, I just did, and you put filter $5, you'll find thousands and thousands of NFTs that are very accessible. Now, again, why are you buying the NFT? Just because you love the art or because you're doing an investment, right? And I think this is also where you individually have to decide, hey, I just love this piece, I wanna have it, I wanna own it, versus, hey, you know, this might be a good, this, you know, it's a good NFT that, you know, there's a lot of marketing around this, it might go up, the floor price might increase. So I think it's a combination of who are you as an investor, as an artist, as a collector, but also just know that there's in crypto, there's something for everyone. And so there's definitely plenty of NFTs that are not at that high price range.
Thank you so much, Andres. Vicky, one question that came in is, what is the long-term goal for most people who are buying NFTs? Is it to keep it as art? Is it hold it as an investment? What are you seeing, and what are some interesting, as you're doing your reporting, you're seeing both business and individuals. Why are they doing this?
Yeah, so from my perspective, because I cover investing, trading, and markets, I do encounter a lot of investors who are either trading NFTs, flipping NFTs, like buying one NFT and then seeing it appreciates in value and then immediately selling it 2 days later, or there are more sort of institutional or bigger investors who set up NFT funds and then they invest in NFTs, the Bored Ape Yacht Club or CryptoPunks of the world that are very well known and very expensive, sort of in the hope of that they will appreciate in price. It become that in that way, NFTs, I guess, are sort of considered an investment, but highly risky investment. But I guess there are also just individual artists, as we talked about, who are looking at NFTs as a way to launch their career. And I think Shahar and other panelists have talked about NFTs are not just art. There are other use cases as well, for ticketing, for real estate, for all sorts of recording purposes. The most recent purpose or utility that I've learned about NFTs is that you can actually take an NFT back loan. If you have a expensive NFT or blue chip NFT, you can use it as a collateral to take out a loan in cryptocurrencies or stable coin. It's highly risky. You can use that loan to engage in other sorts of decentralized trading or buying more NFTs or doing other stuff. It's obviously highly risky, but it's just to, I guess it's just to show that there are many other use cases for NFTs other than trading it or looking at it as an art.
Yeah, Vicky, I really appreciate that. And also the duty to warn that this is a risky asset. We do not suggest anyone put money in NFTs that they cannot afford to lose. But another downside of this, which I think is important that we talk about, is the crypto carbon crisis. And we know this is an issue. It takes a lot of energy to mine, and minting versus mining, that might be a little over my expertise there. But we do know that there are efforts being made. Andres, maybe you'd be the person, if I had to guess, at some of the stuff you're interested in, or Pat, about how are we thinking about the environmental impacts of Web 3.0, of cryptocurrency, and of NFTs?
So this is what we call FUD in the environment, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It is true that Bitcoin mining, the way it's mined, it has environmental. I mean, it has a lot of energy. But like El Salvador just recently, bought a bunch of Bitcoin, and they're starting to use the energy from volcanoes to mine that. You have a bunch of ways to use green energy to mine Bitcoin. Most chains, and Shahar and others can correct me if I'm wrong, are moving towards proof of stake and other ways to corroborate transactions that are not as energy consumptive. Like, they're much more efficient. So the whole thing, people are saying, oh my God, carbon crisis. I personally, from what I've read, that's not the big thing. I think is people have been using that to kind of create fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I think that's where I would say it, but I would love to hear from other panelists who perhaps are more well-versed.
Anyone else to add to the environmental base? I think it's important.
Yeah, I think this is really important. And this is something that unfortunately is really misrepresented, especially in the mainstream media and otherwise, because they're not really doing the work. So what Andres said is true. And you have to think about, so most of these NFTs are going on Ethereum, and most of the criticism is directed towards that. The way Ethereum works, right? It's running regardless, right? Whether or not you mint an NFT or make an NFT transaction, Ethereum is going to use the same amount of energy, right? And the reason for that is, the energy used by Ethereum is really just a function of the price of Ether versus the price of electricity. And as long as it's kind of profitable to keep the network running and contribute X amount of energy to it, that's what people are going to do. Now, it's worth noting that Ethereum is well aware of this problem, and they are planning to, hopefully this year, move to, like Andres was saying, a proof of stake mechanism. So a different, less energy intensive mechanism to keep the network functioning, which will have a very low environmental footprint at that point. And I want to just kind of also give you this point, right, which I think is also not well represented, right? I think that the narrative is actually going to change in a few years, and instead of crypto carbon crisis, I think the narrative will change to perhaps crypto carbon revolution, because I see, at my position as a early stage investor and stuff like that in this space, there are many projects that are working on using crypto and the power of Web3 in terms of incentive alignment, right, to create really new and interesting solutions to the carbon crisis. For instance, there's a project using crypto incentives, right, and incentive alignment mechanisms to incentivize carbon credits, right, buying more carbon credits. There's a project working on tokenizing plastic credits in the ocean to incentivize ocean cleanup. And not only that, right, but there are renewable projects, right, new projects looking at creating renewable energy sources that are using crypto to basically increase their ROI, right, and make investment in them much more palatable, right? So where it used to be really hard, to bootstrap sustainable projects because you're not sure you're going to make any money, it's very tough to integrate with the grid. And these things, if you're like sun or solar power, right, or wind power, like you don't know when that stuff is going to be running all the time. It doesn't align with the grid. So what do you do with that energy, when there's not demand for the grid, or when you're not integrated with the grid to transport it? Well, you can start actually mining cryptocurrency, right? And you create some revenue, right, that makes the certain renewable projects that just weren't feasible, right, financially before, now actually can be. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on around that. There's a lot of people really passionate about this issue that have a lot of really cool ideas of how to tackle it. I really encourage you to look into some of those. And, find me on Twitter if you want, and I can point you to some of them. But it's also important to understand, right? Like, it's like the grid. Just, if you turn your lights off, right, the grid is still running, right? So it's the same thing with Ethereum. Don't think that by participating in NFTs as an artist or as a collector or otherwise, you are marginally increasing the energy usage of Ethereum, because that's not true.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I'm glad people asked about that. I think it's an important point. This question for Pat, and we're going to do 2 more questions, then we're going to go to our final closeout here, is we mentioned funds raised for nonprofits in crypto. Is this new money coming in, or people switching their donations into crypto where we used to give in, checks and dollars? Where's this new, what's happening? Who are they? What are they doing?
Yeah, it's almost all new money. It's not like donors converting. So that's like one of the big, I guess, reasons we exist. We weren't like the first to do crypto payments for nonprofits, but like earned market dominance pretty much by not treating it like a donation method, but treating it like a donor demographic that can be, targeted and attracted and brought in. A lot of nonprofits, especially in the early days, they used to kind of add a like donate crypto button, or try to find a way to just like process crypto gifts that come through. That's almost never worked. Like sometimes orgs get lucky doing that and someone will donate crypto, but usually they're part of your existing audience anyway, which is a big waste of being early, I guess, in a nascent technology. The vast majority of donation volume comes from organizations that are getting in front of crypto users. So like the formula for us is kind of 50-50. One half of what we do is we have a crowdfunding platform and we run these campaigns that I mentioned. We also build integrations on crypto exchanges, wallet providers, tax software, et cetera. So just like attracting crypto users into donate crypto in the general sense. Then they pick nonprofits kind of as a secondary consideration. And then the second thing we do for nonprofits who want to like fundraise actively is like help them do that. So like MDA with their telethon with like Kevin Hart, getting up and talking about crypto is just like a thing we'll coordinate behind the scenes, or help a nonprofit do like an NFT drop in partnership with the platform, or, have some crypto fundraising campaign they run over a month to like target crypto users and like partner with a newsletter. So like active crypto fundraising on an individual nonprofit by nonprofit basis. And then the other half is like building donor funnels that then just come into our platform or our campaigns, and then pick nonprofits they want to support. So I guess one thing I would tack on to all of that for everyone who's listening, as we talk about like minting NFTs and doing all that stuff, I do think it is important to note, like, think about the ways you can interface with crypto and NFTs that are most useful for you. So for like a nonprofit, for instance, like a lot of nonprofits, when they start talking about NFTs or crypto, they start talking about like using crypto, or like opening accounts and moving stuff around and earning yield and getting into DeFi, or like minting their own NFTs. It's like, you don't have to do that. It's very similar to like, you can have a car without understanding combustion or like developing it from scratch. When you like open a Twitter account, you don't like start talking about how to build your own servers. So that's just a nonprofit fundraising example. But of course, like as individuals, like there are a lot of ways you can interface with and learn about NFTs and crypto that are uniquely useful, selling shovels versus mining gold type approach. So I do think it's important that everyone like doesn't feel like you have to start in the same place. Like creating your own NFTs, for instance, like isn't necessarily where you have to start here. There's a lot of ways to get into this tech and like learn about it and increase your individual value or organizational value proposition.
Pat, I've heard you say this before. What are the things that nonprofits have to have in place before they go down this path?
Oh, getting into crypto, crypto and NFTs in general. Yeah. The main thing is like, are you good at fundraising? So like we said, nonprofits all the time, like a lot of nonprofits will look at crypto like a lottery ticket. They're like, okay, I can sign up with you guys and then get all the free money that everyone's getting. And it's like, not necessarily. It's kind of not how it works. If you're good at fundraising, like you know how to steward donors, you know how to use Twitter and like fundraise from young donors kind of in general already, then yeah, you can plug crypto in. And then for instance, like the best performing American Cancer Society tweet of all time is one we drafted for them that just says, we take Doge now. Like that's kind of what you can unlock by getting into crypto. So like if you have an audience, especially you know how to get in front of folks, then yeah, it's crazy to not be taking crypto. There's so many people in your audience who just like hype that message up. and you can drive in all these new donors around like a highly tax incentivized donation method. And then when you back down to mid-sized and smaller nonprofits, like you got to know if you can fundraise, because if you can't, even if you are going to get high ROI in crypto, which you kind of could, is that the best use of your time? Like if you're learning how to run Google ads and use the internet, develop a social media presence, like just for crypto donors, like you should probably be doing that for your organization in general first, building out like a stronger foundation and base. And then you can plug things like crypto and other innovative payment methods or strategies in, and those things blossom more effectively. I think small and mid-sized nonprofits in particular look for like that get rich quick or like a golden ticket that can like get them out of having to build an effective internal system. So like that's the main thing. Like, are you good at fundraising in any basic capacity? And like, do you know how to internet, right? Like, are you on Twitter and you kind of get how that thing works? If those two things are true, crypto and NFTs are probably worth your time. If you're like, you don't have a mobile optimized website and you're trying to like mint NFTs, like I would say you have to reevaluate your priorities, and it's probably not time for this yet.
Awesome. Very appreciate it, Pat. I'm gonna ask the last question to Vicky. It's a lot happening with regs and with rules, and not a lot happening at the same time. Can you talk about just a little bit of the, what's happening in terms of regulations and some of that's happening?
As far as I know, there really hasn't been any comprehensive regulation set for the NFT space. Even for the crypto space in general, I know the executives at some of the biggest crypto companies, what they're trying to do is to sort of help regulators in DC to help establish a clear and comprehensive regulatory framework for the industry. And there have been a lot of discussions, but so far there really hasn't been any clear regulations for the industry. But I do know something that's very important for anyone involved in crypto or even just buying NFTs, the taxes is something to consider. I don't know if any other panelists has any views about your regulations in the NFT space, but so far I haven't heard much about it.
Yeah, a brief answer. Andres, you want to give a brief answer, and then we're going to go to our wrap.
I typed in the answer there, just saying that it's a wild, wild west. I mean, like it's, every year regulators are catching up to the industry because they want to take a piece of the pie. So, I mean, it's changing every year. Accountants are having to deal with new rules every year. So I think it's just an emerging situation.
Yeah, and watch for where governments play too, because no one likes to think there's other currencies out there. It's going to be a really interesting space, the regs as much as the creativity. So this has been amazing. And our panelists really, boy, have I learned a lot. I have 17 questions for each of you. As we leave, I would ask for each of you to offer one actionable thing. So if our audience is sitting there thinking, okay, where do I start? So then my hope is across all of you, everyone will find 1 to 2 pieces of advice that they think they can do. I'll go first to model. 1, open a Coinbase account and set aside $25 or $50 so you can say that you bought it, so you can understand what it feels like. That's where I would start, and that's where I did start. And I'm going to go to Shahar next. We'll go in the same order that we spoke, if that's okay.
Okay, shoot, I was thinking about something. Yeah, there are so many great ways to start. I mean, I think opening a wallet is definitely a good first step, kind of necessary first step. Starting to look around, or you know what, here's what I would say. Get onto Discord, okay? Because every NFT community is on Discord. That's kind of where the community aspect of it lives. So find an NFT project that you like. Don't worry about buying it. Don't worry about how much it costs, but join the community. Join the Discord, right? Salt's free, right? Join the community and start talking to people, right? Start meeting other people, talking to the artists, the people in the community. In my experience, people on Discord in these NFT communities are super nice, and they're there to help you out, right? I mean, don't give anyone your password, please. Don't give anyone, personal information about you. Don't trust them if they ask you send them money. Don't do any of that. There are a lot of scammers out there, but engage with these real people, right? And it's also a wonderful way to network, especially if you're an artist, right? Because the people in these communities, right, they're super passionate about this stuff. They're super excited. And they want to bring, everyone on board. They have kind of the same passion that I think you heard from a lot of us, right? So I saw someone posted like the World of Women Discord, like that's a great one, right? Go in there if you're interested in that project and start to interact with the community. And you can learn a lot that way. Plus you can do a lot of great networking.
Awesome. Pat?
Yeah. I guess there's two different areas. There's like intellectual curiosity, and then there's investing best practices. Like one thing is like a comment, and then a piece of advice. Like crypto, and now NFTs is an extension of it. It's the best performing asset class of the last 10 years. It's also the best performing asset class of the last 5 years. It doesn't mean at any point in time the thing you're buying isn't overpriced or inflated or in some sort of a bubble that exists on top of underlying value. So I'm not saying like run out and buy a bunch. But if you're someone who invests in general, like it's definitely time to look into it. So explore for yourself, for your organization, for your family. Like the upside of cryptocurrency is obviously great. So like diversifying into it very slightly, even if it's not enough to change your life, just like everyone is saying, to open a Coinbase account and buy a little bit so you're ready to make these sorts of decisions. Like have it on the menu, right? From any standpoint, like it's part of your life now. So make sure to get involved. And then when it comes to like learning about crypto, again, like think about the ways that it can best benefit you and your life, right? So there are plenty of nonprofits who don't know the first thing about creating NFTs that are like running really successful partnerships with NFT artists and platforms by just saying, we think this stuff's cool. Like, do you want to work with us? They go, great. They never have to make them or touch them or anything. And now just by exploring other people and their expertise, like stuff goes well. So just think about it. Like, are you an artist who needs to create them? Are you an investor who needs to invest in crypto versus NFTs? Are you a company or an organization who can interface with folks who are experts without developing an entire knowledge base from scratch? Like think through those things before you spend 4 Saturdays in a row learning a bunch of stuff that you never get to action. So yeah, just pay attention, come up with a plan, see what's valuable and move on it.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate the being playful there, I think, and just doing it. Vicky, what about you? And maybe speak to the entrepreneurs or the business folks out there. What should they do?
Oh, wow. I guess just think about sort of your NFT branding strategy. I know that there have been a lot of corporations, businesses that have come out and said that they're getting into the NFT space. And honestly, some of them have been sort of considered as cringeworthy by the crypto native community. So I think it might be best to consult with someone who has been in the crypto space for a while before coming out with your NFT strategy. That might be my humble advice for the businesses out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Jenn?
So my action item would be to create a Twitter account and follow like a bunch of people that says very smart things about NFTs and the entire space. Like I'm kind of a newbie actually, like I discovered this space only a few months back, and I think Twitter that helped me a lot, like threads, shared articles, just insights from different types of influencers that are like in this space for a while. And I actually also want to say a second thing that is less fun, but like really educate yourself also on safety measures, scams, and such things. And it's not just about like maybe buying an NFT that is worthless. It's also about getting all the things that you have being stolen from you, which is like terrible. So really, really educate yourself about all of these. And like scammers are getting more and more creative. So you really have to always try to stay on top of it and be very careful, which is kind of like not a super fun last words from me, but it's very important. So please be careful.
No, I think I appreciate that is the duty to warn. And we do want to make sure that we're flagging things for people who are new to this. So I really appreciate you naming that. It is a little wild. Andres, kick to you.
Yeah, I just want to really emphasize what Jan just said. Like, I've been scammed. I'm sure many of us in this call have been scammed, and especially social engineering most of the time. If somebody will have like a Twitter handle that just they change the name, like anyway. But yeah, do your research and make sure you practice those guidelines. So one thing is, and Jan mentioned Twitter. YouTube has a great number of people. Some of them are just like shilling coins and just telling you a bunch of things to buy. But one that I really like that I think is very even keel. He doesn't tell you what he's buying or not or much, and maybe others, but I like him. Is Coin Bureau is the YouTube person I follow. Tons of educational stuff. He has a beginner's guide on how to, and I think it's just he's pretty not like chill, like basically telling you what to buy. He's just kind of giving you more information. I enjoy his thing. The other thing is, in addition to the Coinbase wallet, to engage with the Web 3.0, you want to have a MetaMask. So I put the link there before, but make sure you open a MetaMask so you can just have that experience. And then, yeah, just practice, engaging with that, ideally with coins that the fees are not so high. Solana might be a good one. You may need, or Binance Smart Chain. But anyway, I'm sure many of us here, I'm happy to help you and people in Discord. So it's a whole world there. Just get started. That's the biggest thing.
Amazing. When we started out today, we said, why are you here, right? Like, why is an arts community doing this? I think it is abundantly clear that it is going to take all of our best artistic brains to make this, to participate and to be playful. The takeaways that I have is, one, start someplace, start with Coinbase, start with MetaMask, start with Discord, just hanging around. You have to do anything yet, just check them out. Two, be aware from the safety pieces to what's happening. There's whole new rules, and also assume that the community is collective, collaborative. You'll see that it's pretty cool, and that don't be afraid to step in. When we started, we said, why do we do this? Because we think the future is happening right now, and now you are part of the future. So thank you for that. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't also invite you to support Sitar. Truly an organization I owe much of my life to. So it is something that I care a lot about, and it makes so much sense. And of course, Sitar would be talking about a form of artistic expression like this and how we can bring it to young people. So if you have space in your wallet, digital or otherwise, or your time, consider becoming a part of Sitar. We have a lot of ways that can happen, and we would love to have someone be our first crypto or NFT donor, because that would be a chance for us to do something new. So I'm going to pause here and just say thank you. I hope that you enjoyed learning with us. I want to say thank you to our panelists. You all are so amazing, and our innovators and creators and translators and teachers. So this would be my next invitation for all of you to stay involved with Sitar, because you'd fit right in as you do right now. So
Sarah.
Yep.
Sorry, not to interrupt, but one thing I just want to throw out on your appeal there for crypto donations, which I didn't really hit on well enough. Just in brief, donating crypto, very similar to stocks and other non-cash assets. You get the write-off like you do with USD donations, but you also pay no capital gains on the asset that you're donating. So like crypto NFT donations, it's super important to note the tax incentive piece. If there are folks on here who have crypto, they should know that it's not just like parting with your crypto arbitrarily. When you can donate US dollars, there's an additional tax incentive layer.
I couldn't have set that up even better. I appreciate you. So thank you all. And this is the type we're all going to keep learning. Good night. Enjoy the brave new world that we're all co-creating together. And I look forward to seeing you either on another screen or in real life, hopefully at a concert before too long at Sitar.